I got my mistress pregnant. I'm thinking of divorcing you. She's pregnant, isn't she? That means your affair didn't just start this month, right? We've been seeing each other for about a year. This counts as an affair, doesn't it? It's better not to hide it and face trouble later, so I'll pay the compensation for the affair. I see. So the late returns from work and the days you went out alone weren't just to avoid taking care of your mom, Kinsley, they were to meet her too. That's right. Kinsley, now suffering from dementia, was left in my care by my husband. It was already a troubling situation, but after disappearing without a word for about a month, my husband suddenly returned home with his mistress. He boldly declared his affair, even calling her mistress in front of me. Technically, he wasn't wrong in his terminology, but wouldn't his mistress be angry too? That's what I thought, but she just smiled silently at me. Smiling after being called mistress, how eerie. Does she really want to marry him that badly? If she's fine with such a man, she can have him all she wants. Fine. From now on, you take care of Kinsley. What? The care is your job, isn't it? You quit your job. You don't have an income, do you? I'll give you some money, so keep looking after that old lady with dementia. I'll pay extra, so take care of the housework too. You're telling me to come to this house, which means you two are going to live here, right? That's not gonna happen. Because that mistress. They don't know yet what's going to happen next. Let the mistress have her fill of troubles with him. And as for my ignorant husband, let him deeply regret leaving me. My name is Mia. At 50, I work as an office employee, and so does my husband, Alexander. We have a daughter, Lily, who recently graduated from college, got a job, and moved out. Child raising is completely over. Despite the various hardships, when I look back, they all seem like good memories. Now that Lily has moved out, I thought we were going to enjoy our time together as a couple while working. But then, this incident happened. That's why I was worried about being alone. It's okay now, we're safe, after all. After receiving a call that Kinsley had collapsed, we rushed to the hospital. Alexander was venting his frustration to his mother, who lay sleeping on the hospital bed. It turned out she had a brain hemorrhage. Somehow, she survived, but she developed vascular dementia as a consequence. I can't deal with Mom's whims anymore. Right. Let's start preparing immediately. Alexander and I decided on the spot to live together without Kinsley's consent. Kinsley, now 80, had been living alone since her husband passed away 5 years ago. When he died, we had suggested living with her. I'm not gonna live with you. I've finally got some peace, let me enjoy it. But I'd worry if something happened to you. What do you mean by something? Don't treat me like I'm old. I may be 1 foot in the grave, but I can still take care of the house. Don't say that. I'm definitely not moving in with you. Despite our persistent suggestions, she adamantly refused to consider living with us. Because of this, Alexander and I decided to visit her more often and keep in frequent contact. However, even that seemed to annoy her. Having you always coming over doesn't give me any peace. Please don't say that. I'll leave right away. If you're leaving so soon, you might as well not come at all. Are you after something valuable here? Or perhaps you're eyeing the inheritance. There's no money in this house. I'm not here for any of those reasons. Visits to check on her often ended in being scolded. Kinsley used to take good care of Lily when she was little and was always kind, asking over the phone if we needed any help with parenting or our marriage. But she changed a bit after my father-in-law passed away. Nevertheless, now that she had collapsed, we could no longer indulge her whims. In the hospital room, while Kinsley slept, Alexander and I exchanged glances to confirm our resolve, deciding to move in together regardless of the venom she might spit at us later. I'm sorry, the burden seems to be falling more on you. It's okay. I'm still 50, and if I set my mind to it, I think I can find another job. As we prepared to move to her place, Alexander kept apologizing. With Kinsley diagnosed with dementia, I quit my job to dedicate myself to her care, considering it a way to repay the kindness she once showed us, and also as an apology for not moving in sooner. You came. Thank you. Sorry for the trouble. No, thank you for letting us take care of you. I expected to face hostility when we moved in, but surprisingly, Kinsley welcomed us warmly, reminiscent of her kinder days. It seemed like living together wouldn't be a problem. That's what I thought, but a different problem arose. Kinsley was more energetic than we anticipated. She could walk on her own and didn't need much help around the house, and her speech was clear. However, the content of her conversations was somewhat problematic. That flower garden was beautiful. Next time, let's go together, Mia. That sounds great. Let's go with Alexander. While drinking tea, Kinsley told me about a day trip she went on yesterday, seemingly eager to take me there too. But she actually took that trip 20 years ago, not yesterday, and was mistaking it for a recent event. Without correcting or admonishing her, I continued to listen to her travel memories with a smile. Kinsley's dementia made it difficult for her to distinguish between the past and present, occasionally talking about events from decades ago as if they had just happened. I thought this wasn't a major issue, as I could just listen. But I soon realized my assumption was naive. It's so restless with you always coming over. Can you leave soon? Kinsley, we're already living together. I am not living with you too. Stop saying such strange things. Kinsley stomped off to her room. In these situations, if I push the conversation, she just gets angrier, so all I can do is wait for her to calm down. I worry she might do something dangerous, so I keep an eye on her room while I finish up chores around the house. Kinsley acts impulsively, guided by her thoughts, which can be memories of the past or spur-of-the-moment ideas, so caution is necessary. Where is the fork? The fork? What do you need a fork for? Are you going to eat something? Of course I'm looking for it because I'm going to eat. Well, didn't you just have dinner? It's for the dessert roll cake. I'll get it now. You got that right. I can't make heads or tails of what Mom's saying anymore. She said she was looking forward to it this afternoon, so it was easy this time. But there are times I don't understand her either. That's still impressive. The other day, I had no clue what Mom wanted and it turned into a mess. I served 3 portions of roll cake, and we enjoyed dessert as a family. However, Alexander quickly ate his share and retreated to his room. After finishing the dessert, as usual, I listened to Kinsley chatting happily. Something Alexander used to join in before, but now he keeps his distance. Initially, he was enthusiastic about caring for his mother, but it seems he found it harder than expected and gradually left it all to me. He also started coming home late from work and going out alone on weekends to avoid her. Because I quit my job to support Kinsley. I can't let Alexander think it's okay not to help at all, so I had to speak up. Couldn't you listen to Kinsley a bit more? It seems like you're avoiding her by leaving everything to me. That's not it. I'm just tired from work, and I don't want to be caught up in Mom's long talks or her hysterics at home. That's not good enough. I'm not asking you to help all the time, just a bit, to avoid dumping everything on me. Okay, you don't have to get hysterical too. Alexander left the living room as if escaping from me, making me think maybe I should have phrased things better. But at least I got his commitment. This should prevent him from leaving all the caregiving to me. At least, that was the plan, but he tried to fulfill his promise in a way I hadn't anticipated. Sorry about this. You just started working, and it must be tough. It's okay since it's just occasionally. Plus, I want to see Grandma too. As I handed a cup of tea to Lily, she took it over to Kinsley and started listening to her in my stead. During this time, I went out to run errands. Lily has started coming over to help out more, which has been a relief. But this was not something I asked her to do. Hey, Lily. You're here? You're a big help. Going out alone again, what are you thinking? If you're here, I'm not needed, right? That's not the point. When Alexander returned home from hanging out since the morning, Lily scolded him as soon as she saw him. I couldn't help but sigh as I watched my daughter reprimanding her father. Lily started coming over to help because Alexander asked her, saying, "Taking care of Kinsley is tough, could you help a bit?" I only wanted Alexander to help a little, but he left that little bit of help to Lily. Lily, being kind, agreed to come over, but it turned out Alexander wasn't helping at all. It was only natural for Lily to be angry. However, no matter how much Lily scolded, his attitude didn't improve. Instead, he seemed to think, Lily is here now, so everything is fine, and he completely ignored Kinsley's care, worsening the situation. While I am relieved Lily helps, it is only occasionally. In the end, I ended up caring for Kinsley almost alone. You hid my clothes, didn't you? I didn't do that. Maybe you forgot where you put them? Shall we look for them together? How insincere! What a terrible person! Is it fun for you to torment an old woman? You wicked wife! It's been about a year since I started caring for Kinsley almost alone. Day by day, the stress of caregiving isn't too great. However, after a year, the stress has gradually built up. And my stress isn't just from caregiving. Hey, keep it down. Don't make her shout. If anything, this is the source of my stress. Alexander still doesn't help at all, completely dumping Kinsley's care on me. I've tried to keep him informed about important matters. About that time Kinsley randomly called the realtor to make a contract. Did you tell them she has dementia, so the contract was voided? Yeah, but to prevent the same thing from happening again. I'll pass on these complicated issues. Mom's care is your job. Alexander fiddled with his smartphone and left the living room. I can't even get him to listen anymore. It's been like this for a year, and I'm starting to feel quite down. I'm okay for now, but at this rate, my mental health might deteriorate. On a day when I was worrying about this, an incident that severely strained my patience occurred. It wasn't me. Stop accusing me. You did it. I saw it. Fix it now. That's impossible. Take Kinsley to the optician tomorrow. While I was cleaning up after dinner, I suddenly heard Alexander and Kinsley yelling. I stopped washing, dried my wet hands, and rushed to the living room. What happened? She says I broke her reading glasses. You broke them right in front of me. Stop making false accusations. You demented old hag. Hey, what kind of way is that to talk? Enough. I can't take this anymore. Being in this house just piles on the stress. Alexander forcefully pushed my shoulder and stormed out of the house. The pain in my shoulder and his unreasonable words left me too stunned to chase after him or call him back, so I just watched his back as he left. He's the one who broke it. I know. Let's go to the optician tomorrow. Just bear with it without your reading glasses for tonight. I always cause trouble, thank you. What are you talking about? It's the least I can do. I listened to Kinsley while I cleaned up the broken reading glasses from the table. Kinsley can be abruptly angry or say confusing things, but there are times when she returns to her kind self. I think what keeps me sane is when this kinder Kinsley shows up. Alexander didn't come home that day. I figured he'd return eventually and didn't worry much, but he didn't come back the next day or the day after that. I grew genuinely concerned after several days, so I called him multiple times, but he didn't answer. About 2 weeks after he left, I finally got a message from him, just 6 words, "I'll be home eventually." Since he said he'd be home and he's not a child, I decided not to worry. Honestly, with him gone, I felt less stressed. He was a major source of my stress, after all. When you've been married for over 20 years, maybe this is just how relationships go. However, another 2 weeks passed, and a month had gone by without Alexander returning. Just as I was starting to worry again and thinking about calling him, he suddenly came home. Hey, I'm back. Come on in. This is our house after all. What do you mean? I was bewildered by his nonchalant attitude, as if nothing had happened when I met him at the door. What confused me more was the unfamiliar woman standing beside him, looking to be in her late 30s. Alexander held her hand as if it were the most natural thing and walked confidently into the living room, leaving me frozen in the doorway. After a few seconds, I snapped out of it and hurried after them. In the living room, they sat on the sofa as if it was perfectly normal. I stood in front of Alexander, demanding an explanation. What do you mean our house? Where have you been for the last month? And who is this woman? Don't bombard me with questions all at once. But your questions all have one answer. I intended to intimidate him, but it didn't seem to affect him at all. Instead, he wore a creepy smile that only made me feel uneasy. I got my mistress pregnant. Let's get divorced. I felt dizzy at his words. I had suspected something, but hearing it was still shocking. It seemed the woman was indeed his affair partner, and he had probably spent the last month with her. Thinking he could remarry a younger woman made him too bold. Despite being in his 50s and she in her late 30s, he was thrilled about their child and brazenly called her his mistress while she was right there. While not incorrect, I wondered if even the mistress would be angry at being called that. I thought about it, but the mistress just silently smiled at me. Smiling after being called a mistress, how creepy. Does she really want to marry him that badly? If she's fine with such a man, she can have him. Let her fully experience the hardships with him. And the clueless husband should deeply regret leaving me. Both my husband and his mistress had a smug expression on their faces. They plan to kick me out of this house and live here with their upcoming child. If they want a divorce, that's fine, but there are things I need to confirm with my husband first. She's pregnant, right? That means your affair didn't just start this month, right? We've been seeing each other for about a year. This is an affair, right? I don't want to hide it and deal with trouble later, so I'll pay you the settlement for the affair. I see. So the late returns from work and the days you went out alone weren't just to avoid taking care of your mom, Kinsley, they were to meet her too. That's right. Actually, about Kinsley's reading glasses, I really broke them because I was planning to be away from home for a few days. I was supposed to be back in about 3 days, but during that time, her pregnancy came out. So, after discussing what to do, we decided it would be best for you to leave. All right, you take care of Kinsley from now on. I was so fed up with my husband's childish behavior that I lost any interest in discussing things and decided to leave the scene. However, my husband's immaturity was beyond what I could have imagined. What? The care is your job, isn't it? You quit your job. You don't have an income, right? I'll give you some money, so keep taking care of that demented old lady. I'll pay extra, so take care of the household chores too. Hearing my husband's words made the mistress's smirk seem to grow stronger. Seeing her expression, I sort of understood why she didn't get angry even when my husband called her a mistress. What's your name? Sophia. Sophia, no offense, but what do you do? I'm a freelancer. Are you going to continue working after you marry him? He said it's fine if I become a housewife, so I plan to quit. It seems my suspicions were correct. My husband plans to keep me taking care of Kinsley and doing household chores even after our divorce. He says he'll pay, but it'll probably just be a small allowance. If I'm doing all the housework, what will his mistress do as a housewife? Probably, he has told her she doesn't have to do anything. She decided to marry him because she can live comfortably. Confident that if I leave, she can rely on his money and raise children securely with his support. My husband probably thinks just having a young wife and a cute child is enough. However, the life they imagine in this house will never come to pass. You're telling me to come to this house, which means you two are going to live here, right? That's not going to happen. Because this house you plan to live in with your mistress will soon be gone. What are you talking about? This house will be gone. Yes. Kinsley is planning to sell this house and use the money to move into a facility. Selling the house? That was just when Kinsley contacted the realtor on her own because of her dementia. I talked to the realtor, and that contract was supposed to be void. Did she try to go through with it again after that? But I can't believe that her dementia would allow her to properly discuss a contract. Last time, the realtor called to confirm, and I realized she was trying to make a deal on her own. I took care of the paperwork this time. The house is supposed to be in Kinsley's name. You can't just sell the house on her behalf that easily. If you're going to lie, at least make it believable. It's not a lie. I've become Kinsley's legal guardian, so I can manage her property on her behalf. This includes selling real estate, arranging for care services, and even handling inheritance matters. Does that mean you can do anything on Mom's behalf? Not everything, but basically, yes. Why are you the one handling such critical procedures? Shouldn't I, her son, be the one to become whatever guardian? I tried to discuss this with you about 6 months ago when Kinsley contacted the realtor on her own, remember? To prevent the same thing from happening again, I said. But you told me, I don't want to deal with such troublesome matters. Mom's care is your job. So, I went ahead with the proceedings, didn't I? Realizing that I could indeed sell the house as Kinsley's guardian seemed to make Alexander quite nervous. Knowing that the house he planned to live in with his mistress was about to disappear probably contributed to that. Alexander seems to be trying to think of a way to retaliate as he tries to save the house he planned to live in. Sweat is beading on his forehead. No matter how hard he thinks, there's no way he can counter me. After a moment, his expression changed. Let's hear what you've come up with. You're selling the house to fund Kinsley's entry into a care facility, right? Is that really what Mom wants? She has dementia. I can't believe she's capable of such consent. You just don't want to take care of Mom and used your guardian status for your own benefit, didn't you? How terrible of you to put her in a facility just for your convenience. Alexander might think he's caught on to something. However, his conclusion is completely off the mark. Kinsley sometimes confuses past memories as if they were current, right? You wouldn't know because you've been avoiding her, but there were times she reverted to her old self before we moved in together. She told me about how she didn't want to interfere with our marriage after her husband passed away. Originally, she planned to sell the house and move into a facility, but she kept postponing because the house held so many memories of her husband. Then she had a stroke. So, the time she contacted the realtor on her own was because her memories probably resurfaced, and she felt she had to contact them. I'm proceeding with selling the house and preparing for her to move into a facility to honor her past intentions. Why didn't you tell me about selling the house or putting Mom in a facility? You said Mom's care was my job, so I figured I'd inform you when all the preparations were finalized. But then you disappeared for a month without contact. What choice did I have? Alexander, realizing he won't have the lifestyle he imagined with his mistress, slumped his shoulders. But he still hasn't lost hope for the future. Well, if Mom's going into a facility, we don't have to take care of her, right? Plus, I get to divorce you with a settlement and marry Sophia. I was shocked about the house, but it doesn't seem like too big a loss for me. I'm about to crush that hope. There are going to be a lot of expenses coming up, but I guess you two will manage. What? Expenses? Isn't the money from selling the house covering the facility costs? Actually, the house is old and needs to be demolished before selling the land. Demolition costs are surprisingly high. After deducting them, there might be about $160,000 left. So, $160,000 will go to Kinsley, right? Don't scare me like that. That's a significant amount. The problem is that the facility Kinsley is entering is quite expensive. The initial fees alone might cost about $60,000. That still leaves $100,000. The monthly cost of the facility is $6,000. $6,000 a month? That means $100,000 will barely last over a year. And there will be other expenses too, so it might not even last a year. But don't worry. There are various programs available, so Sophia, you take over from here. Me? I don't even know what to do with this sudden news. Alexander, you handle it. I've been delegating mom's care to Mia, so I don't know anything. Besides, why did you choose such an expensive facility? If Kinsley moves into a facility, I can go back to work, right? I plan to find a job and pay for her expenses after her money runs out. I've already found a job, and I'm starting next month. It was easy to find one since I've only been out of work for about a year. But now, there's no need for me to save money for Kinsley anymore. No. A child is on the way, this house will be gone, we'll need to find a rental, and there's your alimony. $6,000 a month is impossible. Please reconsider selling the house and the care facility thing. That's not possible. The decisions to sell the house and move Kinsley into a facility are final. By the way, I can only be removed as the legal guardian if her decision-making ability is restored. So, even if we divorce, you'll still manage mom's estate? That's right. I'll be safeguarding the money from the house sale, so don't get any funny ideas. Alexander, realizing he wouldn't have the happy life with his mistress he imagined, slumped in defeat. The mistress, panicking, started to protest. Wait, what do you mean? You said we had a house, and even though Kinsley has dementia, you told me she'd only be around a few more years because of her age, so we wouldn't need to take much care of her. But now, the house will be sold, the money will go to her, and from what you're saying now, we'll have to cover high care costs. This is nothing like what you told me. Can we even live on that? Sorry, things have changed. Could you possibly start working? Don't joke with me. Build a replacement house now. Sophia grabbed Alexander, shaking him back and forth. His head is wobbling worryingly, looking like it might fall off at any moment. Even though the house is scheduled for demolition, we still need to live here for a while, so it would be problematic if his head fell off. You can't live here anymore, so please leave. I had to kick both Alexander and Sophia out as they were fighting. Is someone visiting? I just chased away some persistent door-to-door salespeople. Kinsley came into the living room, alarmed by Sophia's yelling, but I acted as if the past few minutes hadn't happened. Afterwards, I divorced Alexander. Kinsley, as planned, sold the house and moved into a facility. Also, after hearing about the affair, Lily said she would never meet Alexander again. It seems Alexander and Sophia broke up afterward. Now, not only does he have to pay alimony to me, but he also has to provide child support for the child he will have with Sophia. Alexander was cut off by both me and his daughter, dumped by his mistress, and left alone. Although he's alone, he has a job, but he can't afford to live carefree. He now has to continue paying for Kinsley's care and child support. If Kinsley's facility costs too much, he might not be able to afford the child support. The child is innocent. So I shifted Kinsley to a slightly cheaper facility to ensure he can pay. However, I haven't forgotten how Alexander neglected Kinsley's care and made callous remarks about her. As a sort of punishment, I ensured the facility costs would stretch his finances. As the legal guardian who can also arrange care services in place of my former mother-in-law, I will not allow any unauthorized changes to the facility. If he decides to live with Kinsley, I would consider canceling the facility. However, that's only if he can manage her care while working. Thus, he will have to keep working hard for Kinsley and his upcoming child. Since the divorce, I've occasionally taken Lily to visit Kinsley at the facility. Mia, Lily, you came to see me. Thank you, I'm so happy. Kinsley called out to us enthusiastically and hurried over. The facility's comfortable environment seems to have revitalized her. It appears she will be well for some time yet. Facility staff mentioned that she remembers me and Lily, but when Alexander visits, she thinks he's a stranger. Having been forgotten by his own mother, Alexander truly ended up alone. I started my single life after the divorce, but unlike Alexander, I'm not struggling. I can still talk to Kinsley and see Lily. And I have a job, so I'm not facing financial difficulties. Though I'm living alone, my life feels fulfilled.